This is County Executive Glassman with details on my final county budget proposal. It marks the culmination of 7 years of innovation and efficiency, resulting in the most significant economic progress in Harford's history. It's sort of like hitting the trifecta. We fully funded education, public safety, and cut taxes. Even with the remnants of the pandemic, we have achieved sustained economic growth in jobs, income, and investment. This achievement includes borrowing at record low interest rates, 24 AAA bond ratings, fully funding education and public safety, while restoring our fund balance to $23 million and maintaining our 5% rainy day fund. Despite the current pressures of inflation and energy costs, with this budget, we will also be able to help our deputies, first responders, teachers, and my county employees keep pace by providing, in most cases, a 7% cost of living increase and a step, and in other agencies, a 7% COLA and a 3% merit increase. This historic FY23 budget represents Harford County's most significant investment in education and public safety ever. I have fully funded the Board of Ed's request again this year, and we are $33.2 million above the required maintenance of effort. I'm also equally as proud to say that we have managed our local government wisely, stabilized our debt, and grown our economy to the extent that I can also provide the largest tax cut in Harford's history to our local citizens, a full 5-cent reduction to the property tax rate for a total of $43 million of tax relief during my term. Let's take a few moments to walk through some of the highlights from this year's budget. You know, over the years, I've used Abraham Lincoln in many of my presentations, and this year, the leave nothing for tomorrow, which can be done today, really sums up my philosophy for this year's budget. As you can see, the total budget this year is about $1.2 billion, with about $752 in general fund and about $269 for the capital budget. As I mentioned earlier, this budget does provide the largest property tax reduction in Harford County's history, a full nickel reduction in the tax rate. We continue to work on our conservative budgeting, and it provides an opportunity for full funding for education and for public safety. We continue to use our efficiency and our low borrowing rates to be able to be in a position to provide this type of reduction for our taxpayers. Just as an example, over my term, we provided about $43 million in tax relief, about $31 million in bond refunding savings, and my procurement department has saved over $26 million. This year, as part of my effort to reinvest in our employees, once again, we are providing increases for county employees across the board, a 7% COLA with a 3% merit. The budget also provides parity, which is about a 10% increase for all our allied agencies. Our deputies and our teachers are also receiving a 7% increase with a 3% step. As I mentioned earlier, the budget provides for full funding for education again this year. We are a full $33.2 million above the Kerwin mandates by the state of Maryland. It also provides a 10% increase for Harford Community College and an 11% increase for Harford County Public Libraries. Those employees will also receive parity in the pay raises I provided for our own employees. I show this slide each year just to give an example. Harford County is still around 50% of our tax revenue is dedicated to public education. We are beyond funding twice of what the state of Maryland is doing. The state still needs to do better in providing formula assistance for the local school system. When I came into office 7 years ago, we faced the opioid epidemic front on. Through our programs, we've been able to provide treatment, recovery funds, and part of our philosophy is also wraparound services for mental health. We have the Crisis Center here in Bel Air. This year I'm giving them $1.7 million. Coming out of the pandemic, the need is greater than ever, and this will stabilize the mental health services at our Crisis Center. In addition, we're providing additional treatment funds for our adolescents, mental health, peer recovery for our partner Addiction Connections resource, which helps us provide treatment and recovery here in the county. We are doing well, but the pressures from the pandemic have really reemerged some of the opioid addiction problems we have, and as you can imagine, in the mental health and mental wellness area. Support for our community organizations. Once again, we're fully funding the Harford County Humane Society. I did include a bonus in there for their employees that kept the Humane Society open during the pandemic. They have done a tremendous job over the past year. We also provide 10% increases for the Harford Center and for the ARC of Northern Chesapeake that take care of our folks with differing abilities and provide employment, job counseling, and residential assistance. Strengthening our communities. We are in a position to really invest in sports tourism, all our tourism efforts throughout the county. We're kicking off the first local African American Heritage Preservation Program, which will provide funds to save and restore some of those sites around Harford County tied to our African American history. As I announced last week, Ripken Baseball is expanding their sports tourism back here in the county with additional fields and also relocating their headquarters here to Harford County. The Discovery Center at Water's Edge is a STEM-related program in partnership with Aberdeen Proving Ground, a great opportunity to use science as a way to attract folks here to Harford County. In Havre de Grace, the auditorium there at the old high school is being turned into an event center, and we're contributing $500,000 there to help stabilize the roof as they begin some systemic repairs to the auditorium. Harmerstown Art Center, great new project at the Grawl to celebrate not only our local artists and provide opportunities for workspaces for them, but also the Grawl and our horse racing history here in the county. Finally, as the county approaches 250 years, our anniversary, we've got some additional funds in there for the Harford County Historical Society so they can finish their facade renovations there at the old post office here in Bel Air. In addition to our funding for education and public safety, our first responders here in Harford County, we are providing full funding for the volunteer fire companies for their operating funds, a full 8.5% increase, in addition to some staffing and recruitment funding, and also funding for our Next Gen Student Loan Relief Program, which is up to about 65 new volunteers, and I think one of the best new programs in the state to attract and retain volunteers into public safety. Also, our Harford County Volunteer Fire and EMS Foundation, as we know, they handle about 85% of the EMS calls in the county in partnership with the volunteer fire companies. And so you'll see about an 18% increase there, $1 million. What we're going to do is bring their providers, their paramedics and EMTs, up to parity with the county providers. So we're able to provide some equity there, and we're not really competing against each other when we're hiring and keeping folks on board. On law enforcement, this is one of our largest commitments. We continue to fully fund and complete the body-worn camera program that was mandated by the state. You'll see funding in the budget for the new central precinct in Aberdeen. There's capital funds there for the renovation of that building, but also provide funding for the first phase of deputies to be recruited to staff and operate that precinct. And the rest of these are related support positions for the Harford County Sheriff's Department. And what we have also is about 18 new correctional officers to support the medical and substance abuse wing at the detention center. And we have some various additional programs here for the Sheriff's Office. I would say that in combination for public safety, this budget's about $187 million in funding for public safety here in Harford County. We continue, from what we've learned through the pandemic and hearing from folks in the northern part of Harford County, I continue to fund the expansion through a public-private partnership, our rural broadband to serve underutilized areas in Harford County. And we've got $37 million committed to expand broadband in those underserved areas. Harford County continues to fund and fully fund our capital priorities for the County Board of Education. You'll see about $80.6 million that range from the replacement of Homestead Wakefield, Harford Technical renovation, some roof and chiller projects. I also have, coming out of the pandemic, particularly with distance learning and so forth, the largest increase in technology for the board since I've been in office, about $3.6 million. In addition, we have 29 special education buses funded that will completely bring us up to date on the state mandated replacement cycle. Also, on the public safety capital side, I fully fund the volunteer fire company's maintenance program. That's for a lot of various maintenance projects throughout the county system. We fully fund that with some life safety equipment. Darlington Fire Company bunk room, about $1 million to upgrade and provide housing there for volunteers. We have the first phase of the construction of the Riverside Fire and EMS system, which is a partnership with the Abington Volunteer Fire Company. We continue to upgrade our next-gen 911. And finally, I've got about $1.5 million for the second installment for the Susquehanna Hose Company House 1 renovation. And now we have some additional capital projects here. They're not the glossiest projects out there, but we have to do these to keep the county running smoothly. They include county road and bridge projects, watershed management, water and sewer. We are a major partner in the Harford Community College's Welcome Center at about $28 million. I have funding in for the Jarrettsville Rec Complex at $4 million, and I have fully funded the design and engineering of a Joppatown Youth and Senior Center in the southern portion of the county. I also have a second funding for the Living Shoreline in Havre de Grace, a great project and partnership that we started with the city of Havre de Grace last year, and this will keep it funded and to completion. I want to take a second to thank my budget staff, county employees, and our partners throughout the county, and our citizens. Over the past 7 years, we have experienced ups and downs, but we've always remained Harford strong. I'm pleased that I have positioned the county to prosper well into the future for our next generation. Thanks, and God bless.